Good morning and welcome to today's Board of Commissioners meeting, this January 11th of 2022. We are meeting virtually today, and because of that, instead of having a pastor or someone from our community of faith providing our invocation, we will start off with a moment of silence, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are willing and able, please join me in our moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our meeting is now officially called to order. Because we are holding a virtual meeting instead of in-person meeting today, I'm going to turn things over to Bill Rowling to make an announcement about today's format.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Under Georgia Open Meetings Law, which allows virtual meetings when a local government is under a declaration of a local emergency, as Cobb County currently is. The Cobb County Board of Commissioners meetings are broadcast by the Communications Department for public viewing. During a local emergency, Cobb's information services can offer virtual participation for components of the Board of Commissioners meeting by an amendment to the meeting rules. While the BOC meeting will be live today at 100 Cherokee Street, only a few county staff are in attendance with social distancing in place. The public may view and participate virtually, however, no public attendees are allowed. To that end, I suggest, by way of motion made by the board, that because of the circumstances of the COVID pandemic, the Board of Commissioners meeting rules be temporarily revised for this January meeting and any subsequent meeting while Cobb is under a declaration of emergency as follows. Staff and citizens be allowed to virtually participate in the meeting. BOC members can vote by voice or by hand signal. Persons wishing to participate in public hearings or public comment portions of the meeting may do so virtually via a registration and participation portal established for such purposes. And persons who wish to speak virtually will identify themselves accordingly to IS technical staff for participation during the public hearing or public comment portion of the meeting. Otherwise, the BOC meeting rules will apply except as modified during the normal course of the meeting pursuant to the rules which are allowed.
Thank you. With that, I make a motion that we approve this matter as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Please raise your hand if you approve. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Bill. Okay, our next order of business is for us to receive an update from Cobb Douglas Public Health regarding COVID-19.
Good morning, and thanks for having me this morning. Are you able to give me sharing? I'm sorry, the button is not lit up for me.
Go ahead. You should be able to.
Thank you. Okay. Everybody see my slides all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give you an update this morning on our COVID situation for the county. All right, so as we always start off, our 2-week case rate. So what we're seeing from yesterday, and we had a pause in data, DPH was having some trouble with the system they use to give the data update. So we got an update yesterday after a few days, and unfortunately, what we see is 2,667 cases per 100,000 throughout the county. That's one of the highest numbers that we have seen. And remember, 100 cases over 100,000 over 14 days is considered high transmission. So we were in extremely high transmission, and that has been going upwards since Thanksgiving. Another concerning trend that we're seeing is that of all the tests that we're seeing that are being done for the PCRs, 36.1% are coming back positive. And so when you look at this, when you look at the graph on the right, you can see the percentages, and I'm going to go back just a second. When you look on that graph on the right, this is the cases. You see what it's considered the vertical transmission of the graph. That is very, very consistent with Omicron and what Omicron has been looking like throughout the country, and that's the variant we're dealing with at this point. Remember, we want that target under 5% for test positivity. Here is a situation for Georgia that we're seeing for hospitalizations. When you look at all of these hospitalizations from the beginning of the pandemic, you see that we are definitely approaching what looks like one of the highest rates that we have seen. And you know, the one thing that is kind of good about the situation of the hospitalizations is that I am hearing that because transmission is so very high right now, that a lot of people have COVID that are being hospitalized, but that's not the main reason that they're there. And so we have those folks, but still, what I'm being told is about 2/3 to 70% of folks are still presenting with COVID symptoms, and that's why they're in the hospital. So that's still a lot of folks. But it's less than what we've been seeing in the past. And so I wanted to share that information. At the top, you see our area hospitals, both Kennestone and Cobb Hospital, and I pulled that this morning. The updates are all in severe capacity right now, and they're also, both hospitals this morning are on diversion for ICU and CCU. And so they're diverting ambulances that come to places that have more beds at this point. And that sometimes that opens up by the afternoon, but in the morning, that's what we're seeing. And Cobb has psych diversion at this time as well. This is what we're dealing with at this point. And so this is Region 4 for the United States. That includes Georgia, and very consistent with what the modeling is showing us. So you can see those purple bars are Omicron. The orange bars were Delta. For a long time, we dealt with the Delta variant, and now Omicron has definitely taken hold. We are seeing a lot more people that are infected with Omicron. Transmission is very high, and so it is suggested that you get your booster to protect you the best that you can. But we are seeing breakthroughs, but we are seeing less people that are boosted and vaccinated that are being hospitalized or die. So this is very important. People in the hospital that have COVID still remain the majority unvaccinated. So it's very important that we continue to get our vaccines and boosters. Speaking of boosters, here is Cobb County. We still are leading the state, better than state stats with our vaccinations. And so we're at 64% first dose, 58% with the full vaccination, but then 22% have received the additional booster dose. And so a lot of folks that still have not gotten that yet. When you look at the ages over on the right, we've been doing quite well with that. When you look at hospitalizations, they are seeing more hospitalizations in the very young folks, 0 to 4 and 80 and above. And so that is one of the areas that hospitalizations have increased. I put this graphic up because it can get a little confusing. And so everybody 5 and over are suggested to get the COVID vaccine. Now, when we get into boosters, the new recommendations that have come out, and I just wanted to make this available to everybody, and the website's down there as well, to see where you lie on this when it comes to your booster shots. And so 12 and older are now eligible for booster shots 5 months after they've completed their series. And that's the Pfizer vaccine that goes down to 12. But if you got Moderna, there are different rules. So you have to be 18 and over. And if you want to get the booster again for after that. And so you can pick which one that you want, but you got to wait 6 months for Moderna. Johnson & Johnson's is over 18 and at least 2 months. And it is suggested that you switch to an mRNA vaccine, which is the Pfizer and Moderna. So this is so just it's one of those things to take with you, and you can see where you lie on that, and makes it a little easier for folks so that I don't throw all that information at you at the same time. I'm going to hand it over to Lisa, who will talk about, we have a lot of stuff going on in testing, so I'll let her tell you about that.
Thank you, Dr. Memark. Before I get started, I just want to give my Georgia Bulldog fans a resounding go Dogs. That's the one time only that this Florida Gator is going to do that, but well-earned championship yesterday. Dr. Memark, I may need a nap before the day's over, though. Let's see, let's talk about our testing. We have expanded our testing capability for the over the last several days. We're still offering the free PCR testing at our Wellstar East Cobb Health Park partnership. That's offered Monday through Friday and also Saturdays and Sundays. And all of these hours and dates and links can be found on our website. Our Riverside Epicenter partnership is expanding. They're currently offering Monday and Wednesday testing, but beginning next Monday, we're going to go to Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. Next slide. We're excited that we were able to expand very quickly to offer more testing to meet the demand. So last week on the 4th, we moved our testing from the Ackworth Health Park, where it had been for several months, over to the KSU Brand Smart location because that location was bigger. We were able to get a 6-lane tent so that we can be able to do testing in all types of weather. And we're offering 7 days a week over there. I want to do a particular shout out to all of our LTS staff and the KSU public safety folks. They have just been tremendous to be able to help us ramp that testing side up very quickly. And then Viral Solutions partnered with us to open a mega site back at Jim Miller Park. That opened up on the 5th, and we're also offering 7 days a week at those locations. Remember that a lot of our other retail providers continue to offer PCR and rapid testing across the district. Again, visit our website, visit the Georgia DPH website. I will tell you that we were experiencing really long wait times. It seems like in the last several days, those wait times have gone tremendously lower. So I'm excited about that. Do want to let residents know to please be patient when it comes to the test results because of the high volumes. We are seeing 24 to 72 hours for test results. And be aware that as we go into all of these winter months that every once in a while we have bad weather and those sites will close, but we'll put those on our website or put signage out when that happens. Next slide. So I'm excited about this partnership with Cobb County government. We are pleased to be offering our residents 60,000 home rapid 2-test kits. Been working a lot with Cobb EMA and the county and public safety to be able to plan for the distribution before the end of this month. Our first focus is on our vulnerable residents, so we've made contact with a lot of the shelters across the county to make sure that they can get access to these rapid tests for their clients. And then we'll also be distributing these rapid tests out to our mass sites. We've confirmed Jim Miller Park and KSU and the Epicenter mass sites because we already have the infrastructure in place to do facilitated and efficient distribution. We're also going to be working with some of our food distribution lines and pantries to be able to get those tests out. So more to come. Watch the Cobb County government and Cobb and Douglas Public Health websites for more information. Dr. Memark, do you want to do the takeaways?
Yeah, so, just want to remind everyone 5 and over, it's very important to get your vaccinations. I doubt Delta is going to be the last one, or Omicron will be the last one that we're going to see in variants. We are in very, very high transmission right now. And so even though the symptoms of Omicron are less than what we've seen or less severe than Delta, I want to remind everybody that when you get this many infected people at the same time, we are already straining our hospital systems. They have already passed a number of people people that they have treated at the same time for COVID, and that really puts a strain on their staffing and finding beds and things like that. So, a lot of people, I've heard a lot, it's just allergies, it's this, it's just that. But, you really should be thinking Omicron and COVID first. And so I want to remind everybody of that. Don't forget about the booster shots as well. It's important everyone over 12 and over should be getting those boosters. And get your tests as needed. And don't forget all of those things, to wear your mask and wash your hands and watch your distance. This is not going to be forever. We just need a few weeks to bring this down and get this under control. And then we'll hopefully have some breathing room to get back to life again. So that's all we have. And we can answer any questions that you all might have.
Wonderful, thank you. Before I turn things over to commissioners to ask questions, I want to make sure that I thank you for your responsiveness, particularly over the holidays, as we've had issues occur with testing, but you've been responsive as well as working with the county to coordinate distribution of at-home tests. It's good to see you've also helped to expand sites, and those wait times have been going down, which I'm sure members of our community appreciate. Thank you also for continuing to advise me and the public about where we are with COVID so that we can take adequate precaution. With that, I'll turn things over to commissioners to see if you have any questions or comments for public health.
I just have a question, Dr. Memark, this is Commissioner Sheffield, regarding the home test, and if there are instructions on what to do if you test positive. What are the next steps?
Absolutely. And thank you, Commissioner, for asking, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, there will be instructions in English and in Spanish there for everyone to have. And you'll have the 2 tests there. And we're looking at more information. Some of you may be asking, they may be less sensitive than the PCR test, but they are very, very important. They have a little less sensitivity, but still very important in this battle right now. The PCR test, the difference that people may or may not know is that when you take a PCR test, you can stay positive for months. It may have genetic fragments that it picks up on, and you can be positive for a very long time. The antigen tests are designed to help us to find out if you're acutely infected. And so even if it doesn't catch you 100% of the time, it will catch you more often than not. And what's important to know, though, is that if you take these tests, you got to be careful that if you actually were around somebody that had COVID and you were in close contact for a long time and you were showing symptoms that look like COVID, and even though your test is negative, I wouldn't go running with that antigen test. I would get that PCR if it looks like all the signs are pointing to that one direction. Now, if you don't have any symptoms and you weren't around somebody and you just wanted to check for some reason, then you're probably safer in that respect. So definitely, there's a time and a place for it, but it gives people more opportunity to be able to be tested in their convenience of their homes. So thank you, and thank you all for that and everything you've done to help the situation.
Thank you, and happy.
Yes. Working with communications to make sure to put those we'll have each one of those handouts with the individual test kits, and then there'll be a link for folks if they have additional questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Commissioner Sheffield, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yes, just moving forward with the meeting, because I can't see you here and in person, if you can help me in raising your hand so we don't have multiple people chiming at the same time. Thank you, Commissioner Gambrill. Please go ahead.
So will you also be advising residents of the 500 million test kits that the Biden administration has administered or has authorized to be administered? Will you be educating folks on that as well?
Yes. So as we get more information about that, we will be. And so our understanding was that wasn't coming till the end of the month. And it's going to be a home delivery situation where everybody actually has to go on and order those. But as soon as we get information, we will put it on our website and we'll give it to your communications team so you can also post it as well, because that's a bigger group of tests available that everybody should take advantage of.
Okay, and then as of last night, the Biden administration also stated that your insurance providers now have to provide 8 at-home test kits per month per individual. Will you be advertising and instructing people how that will be covered? And then also the fact that the insurance providers would have to pay for those tests?
Yes, as soon as we get information, we will share it. So I got that information just like you did last night, so I have to wait for details and we will share that.
Okay. And then, while this is not directly a Cobb Douglas public health issue, the board has been receiving many emails in regards to our aquatic centers. And the question is, who has been advising the county to restrict the numbers within the aquatic centers? Have you given any advice to the county in that regards?
Not specifically on the aquatic center, so we have discussed general COVID protections and precautions. So, meeting in person and spacing out and, those kind of things, but not, I haven't, but my team may have, somebody may have talked to the aquatic center, but I don't think that we have, though. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gambrill. Do any other commissioners have any questions? You can just raise your hand. Thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, good morning, everyone. In addition to the test sites that were mentioned where the test kits are going, the home test kits, and this may be a question for the county, not you, Dr. Beamark, but we had also discussed distribution sites in each of the 4 districts. So,
Commissioner Burl, I can take that one. Cassie Maslow and I have been working over the last several days to look at district locations across the county. We first wanted to start with some of the sites that already have the strong infrastructure, because we know it's going to be a heavy lift on staff, particularly our public safety staff, to manage the traffic. But it's absolutely our commitment to make sure we have locations all across the county. So I've reached out to a couple of the churches that you passed along already, and we're just working out details on that.
okay, good. I'll get with you later then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, certainly keep us posted so that we can notify the public. I know a lot of things are happening in a very short amount of time. I believe the distribution kits will be arriving this Thursday, and we have our first distribution event scheduled. Oh, I see, fingers crossed. Will be scheduled for Monday, and I believe there's another event that's even scheduled for that following week. But please, Lisa, we look forward to your update. I know you sent me some information, but it'd be helpful to also get that out to all the commissioners. All right. Are there any other questions or comments for public health? Again, thank you so much, Dr. Memark and Lisa, for all that you continue to do. I know that we've just started a new year, and this first week has, in some sense, felt like a whole year with all that's been going on with the rise in COVID. But you continue to give it your best and give it your all in helping to keep us updated and to keep us healthy. And I want to personally commend you and your team for all that you're doing for us in Cobb County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate it. Everything you all have done for us as well to help.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our presentations for today. We will now segue to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is from DOT.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Very good. So on December 21st, 2021, the Board of Commissioners approved Cobb County Zoning Z86 2021 to rezone the Saints Partners LLC property adjacent to the Leland Drive for redevelopment. The public access along that road is no longer needed for public purposes. The right-of-way on a portion of Leland Drive adjacent to Saints Partners LLC property is required to allow full utilization of their property as was considered in that zoning. Therefore, Saints Partners LLC has requested the county close and abandon the public right-of-way on a portion of Leland Drive as the section no longer serves a public purpose. Therefore, the department recommends the Board of Commissioners conduct a public hearing for the purposes of, for the proposed closure and abandonment of a portion of Leland Drive located in land lot 875 of the 17th District, 2nd Section, Cobb County, Georgia. With that, Chairwoman, department recommends opening.
Thank you, Drew. The format for this is modified because we are meeting virtually. I will go ahead and declare the public hearing open and then segue to our staff that's present with information systems to queue up anyone who signed up for our public hearing.
We have Scott Peters, who has signed up for this public hearing. Mr. Peters, you're unmuted.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Scott Peters. I represent Windy Hill Self-Storage, who is an adjoining owner to the west of the subject property that is owned by Saints Partners. My client does not abut Old Leland Drive. Saints Partners has both sides of that road, but we are the adjoining owner. We are not opposed to the abandonment. We're not opposed to the closing of Old Leland Drive. Our concern is in regard to the form of the quitclaim deed that is attached to your agenda and is presented to you. I believe there's another item that's been added to your agenda for a contract with a company called Strack Inc. to do some work out here. There is significant stormwater issues that exist in this area that need to be remediated. For your information, there is a 50-acre watershed on the west side of I-75 that is channeled onto my client's property and then across through the stormwater pipes that exist in Old Leland Drive and across the property of Saints Partners that is channeled under I-75 through a public culvert. There's 20 acres of I-75 itself that drain through here. So obviously there is a significant amount of water that exists. And in front of you is a copy of our comments to the quitclaim deed. What we're looking for is just two things. Number one, to make sure the county is protected because there's a technical rule. I've spoken with Ms. Blair regarding this, that without getting too technical, it talks about reserving existing easements, but because the county owns the property in fee simple right now, there are no easements. So it actually needs to be reserved as creating an easement when it is reserved. And secondly, we want to make sure my client's interests are protected regarding the stormwater flow going downhill through here. So those are our comments. Again, we have no problem with the abandonment itself, and we actually encourage the county to do that. But we do just request that the quitclaim deed be revised to make sure that everyone's interests are protected.
Thank you. I appreciate you weighing in on that. Is there anyone else that signed up for this public hearing?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I will now declare this public hearing closed. I want to turn to our county attorney so you can address his comments with respect to the agenda item for the quitclaim deed.
Thank you, Chairwoman Cupid. Yes, Mr. Peters has been in contact with our office regarding what the quitclaim deed would look like, and we will take his counsel for his client under consideration on how we would best move forward. And we'll listen to what he has to say and what's best for the county.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will now turn to the next public hearing, and that's also with DOT.
And I'm sorry, Chairwoman, we do have some action with that item.
Okay, let's continue on that item because I also wanted to make sure commissioners could ask any questions or share comments. But yes, Drew, go ahead.
Of course. So at the closure of the public hearing, the department recommends that the Board of Commissioners determine that said right-of-way serves no substantial public purpose and authorize the disposition of same by quitclaim deed to the adjoining property owner, Saints Partners, LLC.
Thank you, Drew. Do any commissioners want to weigh in on that matter? Thank you, commissioners, and I'll ask you that for each public hearing moving forward. Okay, our next public hearing again is with DOT.
Yes, ma'am. By way of background, the federal
Chair, I think we need to go ahead and vote on that last one.
Do we need, okay.
Oh, yeah, we need to vote on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. I didn't realize your recommendation was in the form of a motion, Drew, versus advisement. Can you repeat your recommendation again before I make the motion?
Glad to. The department recommends that the Board of Commissioners determine that said right-of-way on Leland Drive serves no substantial public purpose and authorize the disposition of same by quitclaim deed to the adjoining property owner, Saints Partners LLC.
Thank you. So moved as presented. Thank you. I'm sorry. I think I faintly heard a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? All right. If you are in approval of this item, please raise your hand. Okay. If you are in opposition to this matter, please raise your hand. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that this vote carries 3-1 with Commissioners Richardson, Burrell, and Sheffield and Cupid in support, and with Commissioner Gambrill in opposition.
Chairwoman, I think that's 4-1.
4-1. Excuse me, I'm not counting myself. I'm trying to count the tiles up here.
Right.
That's a vote of 4-1, thank you, with Commissioner Sheffield, Burrell, and Richardson, and myself in support, and with Commissioner Gambrill in opposition. Thank you. We will now move to our next public hearing.
Thank you, Chairwoman. For the next item, by way of background, the Federal Aviation Administration requires that grant recipient airports award a contract for program management, planning studies, engineering, construction management, or related services with respect to the airport's projects in a manner that meets the requirements of the FAA grant assurances. The current contract with Michael Baker is expiring. Therefore, the department recommends that the Board of Commissioners conduct a public hearing prior to expending $100,000 or more for the program management, planning, design engineering, and construction management of capital improvement projects at Cobb County International Airport, McCall Field.
Thank you, Drew. We'll go ahead and declare this public hearing open, and I'll turn things over to IS to help queue up anyone who signed up for this public hearing.
There's no one registered for this public hearing.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and declare this public hearing closed. Do any commissioners have any comments or questions regarding this matter? All right, seeing none, I'll turn things back over to you, Drew. Let me know if I need to vote on anything or if there's any other additional comments or recommendation that you may have.
No, ma'am, that concludes the action needed on this item.
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it. We will now go into our third public hearing, which is with Cobb County Water.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The water system is here to conduct a public hearing for employment of consulting services where contract fees will likely exceed $100,000 for construction management services associated with the South Cobb Water Reclamation Facility Headworks Improvements Construction Project.
Thank you, Judy. Again, I'll turn things over to IS to see if we have anyone queued up for this public hearing.
No one is registered for this public hearing.
Thank you. I'll declare this public hearing closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this matter? Seeing none, Judy, is there any additional information or recommendation?
No, there's nothing to approve at this time.
Great, thank you. And we will now move into our final public hearing for today, which is with Information Services.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, and County Manager. We ask that you conduct a public hearing prior to expending $100,000 or more for professional services required to reconfigure, customize, and provide support for a customer relationship management system. Notice of this public hearing for this project was advertised in the Marietta Daily Journal on December 17th, 24th, and 31st, 2021.
Thank you. With that, we'll check and see if anyone's queued up to weigh in on this public hearing.
No one is registered for this public hearing.
Thank you. Go ahead and declare.
Chairwoman, if you don't mind, if I could ask Ms. Lemley, the process by which all of these public hearings were done in order for them to be able to be registered, we would just go through that for the public where they know how to participate?
Yes, we shared a registration link for this meeting. Communications shared that on our website, and they were given a choice to choose what public hearings that they wanted to register for, put their name, contact information, and then select the public hearing. And we had one person for all of the public hearings register.
Thank you.
Second.
Appreciate that. And again, the public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this matter? All right, and Kimberly, is there anything else you wanted to share? Excuse me.
I think we're good. Thank
Director?
you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public hearings for today. We will now move forward with public comment.
Chairwoman, as the board provides the podium for the public comment, it's appropriate to review our related meeting rules. When you are called for public comment, please state your name and if you're speaking on behalf of an organization. All comments should be addressed through the chair. Public comment is not a dialogue with the board, but an opportunity for speakers to provide their comments to the board. The comments should not be impertinent, derogatory, offensive, or slanderous. To that end, the board encourages, regardless of the topic, for audience members to be respectful and courteous to the speakers. Everyone attending this meeting should give others the right to both listen and to be heard. Statements made during public comment portion do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the board or the administration of Cobb County government. The timer, you will not be able to see it, but it's 5 minutes, which will start at the first time that you speak.
Thank you, Bill. If you could let us know how many people we have signed up for public comment.
There are 9. One may or may not have been entered yet or not, and one may have to drop off. So.
Okay. We'll go ahead, and I believe we have 6 for this portion, and then we'll have our second public comment towards the end of the meeting. Okay, with that, turn things over to you, Information Systems, and you can queue up our first speaker.
Our first public speaker is Monica Delancey. Monica, please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Monica Delancey, Austell, Riverside Community. Again, Happy New Year to everyone. First, I would like to address that a number of residents are still looking for rental assistance. Apparently, they're calling, the agencies that's still listed on the website and also what I've been providing. And the agencies are trying to get appointments in, but they're overwhelmed. A few residents have told me that they received notices from their apartment complex that say you need to pay within 3 days or vacate. And so I refer them to Cobb Legal Aid because I tell them that Cobb Legal Aid can help them interpret those letters. Those letters does not mean they have to leave in 3 days. But of course, I'm not an attorney, so I refer them to Cobb Legal Aid to help them determine those letters. So there's not an influx of people leaving their apartment, right, in the middle of COVID, and then trying to get assistance at hotels or trying to move in with relatives that households are already overcrowded. But again, between my organization, We Thrive in Riverside Rental Association, and our dedicated volunteers, we've been getting out the information about rental assistance and also seeking Cobb Legal Aid. This weekend is Dr. Martin Luther King weekend of action. Of course, the federal holiday is on Monday, and we're going to support Cobb County NAACP with their program that's going to be virtual now. But we are doing some weekend of action activities in the Riverside community. Basically, on Saturday, we're going to have a number of workshops. And one of those workshops is Life After High School Planning, where we're going to invite parents and students to start planning for life after high school. And they'll have an opportunity to win scholarships, okay? And then that Sunday, January the 15th, we're doing 2 workshops on rental assistant navigation. And so far, I believe I have about 30 people registered to attend the workshop. There'll be 2, one at 3 p.m. and one at 6 p.m. And everybody that attends the workshop will receive a Kroger's gift card compliments of We Thrive and Riverside Rental Association, $25 each. But then also they're going to have information on how to seek rental assistance. Yes, it's going to be honest, let people know if they've already received rental assistance with agencies, they're going to have to buckle down and try to come up with a plan to continue staying in their apartments. But some people just don't even know the process or knowing that it's not immediate. Some people think they're going to call these agencies and the same day they're going to get a check. It's not working like that. However, the apartment complexes do not have to not file eviction. So hopefully, maybe through I know that we can't have in-person meetings, but how is it so that evictions are still being filed on people, and when they go to court, if they're lucky enough to go to court, the court will say if you don't have the money, even though you're waiting for appointments, even though you're waiting for assistance, the courts can still grant eviction in the heart of the surging of the new COVID surge that we have going on. So prayerfully, we can plead to the courts to stop evictions during this time period. We're going to do our best to get the information out to people about seeking rental assistance, but also planning for after the rental assistance is gone, because we do know it's short term. We do know it's a Band-Aid fix, and we're gonna plead with Cobb County government to seek real solutions for this housing crisis that we have. Cobb County was wall to wall with evictions before COVID. Before COVID, Cobb County was wall to wall evictions with predominantly African American families and Latino families. So, like I said, contact me, Monica Delancey at hotmail.com. If you know someone who wants to attend a workshop on Sunday, like I said, if nothing else, they're going to get a gift card that they can use at Kroger for gas or food or whatever. But we are doing what we can do to get the word out about rental assistance and how to plan for after the rental assistance is gone. Thank you very much, Monica Delancey.
Thank you, Ms. Delancey. Next speaker.
In case I could get those right there.
Our next speaker is Rokesia Liggins. Ms. Liggins, you're unmuted.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, ma'am.
I was calling. I need rental. I need. My name is Rokesia Liggins. I was calling. I need rental assistance. I've been calling, leaving emails, and I have been responding. They're responding to me, and I got documentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Does that conclude your comment?
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying. And I've been going back and forth. I'm just behind because my jobs go back and forth. My hours. Sometimes I get hours. Sometimes I don't. It depends. But that's it for right now.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Typically, if you are present, we'd have someone follow up with you. For public comment, Kimberly, do we have their address or contact information listed?
Yes, ma'am. I have their email address and phone number, so I can share that with you and your staff.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll try to see if someone could follow up with you. We can move on to our next speaker.
Okay. Our next public speaker that is registered is Ms. Debbie Fisher. However, she is not on the line right now, so we will move on to the next speaker and come back to her at the end of the public comment section at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wright, you are the next speaker in line. If you could please go ahead, you're unmuted.
Good morning. Hill Wright, cobbflood.org.
Good morning, Mr. Wright.
Excuse me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, go right ahead.
I would wish everyone Happy New Year, but for too many Cobb residents, it's not a Happy New Year. It's year starting off for the County Board of Commissioners can vote to have a look at a lady's toilet, but the county can't vote to do anything to fix the aging and failed stormwater infrastructure. How inconsistent is the leadership? And furthermore, how backwards are the priorities of this board when you can go address one citizen who still have a roof over her head, but not care about a whole community hurting with the threat of people's ability to stay in their home at risk? We have a housing crisis created in the aftermath of the storm, and there's no way people can recover on their own. Now, there's going to be votes to spend taxpayer-deprived funds for, in quote, important amenities to residents and visitors of Cobb County, unquote, while residents are at risk of losing their homes because Cobb County has no plan to maintain stormwater infrastructure. It's up to saddle the unlucky ones who can't prove their innocence, while the leadership sits here pretending a 40-inch culvert is just a homeowner's drainage system. I really don't know how you live with yourselves doing this to the residents you're supposed to serve. Homes are at risk and we are building and improving trails. Give me a break. Then in another vote you will hold today, you will be voting to rectify failure of some stormwater infrastructure that failed as a result of the stress of September 7th. The old Sewell Road project will replace about 60 foot of CMP pipe under a road for a cost of $203,000. But immediately downstream, a home was flooded when the tailwater created by the undersized and rusted out culverts caused water to rise 15 feet. So next event will make the flooding even worse. The difference in this failure in Old Sewell Road and the many other failures throughout District 3 and District 2 is no one is being saddled as an individual homeowner for replacement of a shared community asset. But in many other places, you're asking individual homeowners to pay for maintaining the county's shared community assets so you can go build and improve trails. You just gave away 1/3 acre of land for $10 to a developer, but you can't give those impacted a hand. Give me a break. Now give the people of Cobb who are at risk of losing their homes a break. We have a housing crisis in Cobb now that just can't be ignored. How long before people can't hold on any longer and the real estate market is impacted because foreclosures are forced on people? You can read Cobb resident stories at cobbflood.org. While I appreciate Commissioner Richardson's focus on this, she can't do it all by herself, so give her a break too. Give everyone a break that's been left drowned in 2021 so they too may have a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. We'll go ahead and hear from our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Veronica Bass. And you are unmuted, Ms. Bass. Please go ahead.
Good morning and greetings to each of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let me just start by saying thank you for the opportunity to come before all of you and expound on my situation and voice my concerns as a resident of Cobb County. Recently, I fell into an unforeseen and one of the most overwhelming situations as a victim of assault. As a result of the incident, I was forced to cease work and undergo mental evaluations and coping considering the incident. I found myself in sinking sand in an instant and still find myself currently fighting to not drown and allow my family to be homeless per the remnants of the situation. I have 2 kids, which I solely support, a son in high school in the 9th grade and a daughter in her first year of college. This is my first time dealing with a situation where I hit rock bottom and life was coming faster than I could manage it. What I have found to be the toughest is the amount of limited resources available for assistance. I've called many places seeking rental and utility assistance. To say the least, from all the feedback I've received, there was no funding or the help was only available to residents experiencing hardships by way of COVID or the wait time equates to months. The very low rate of responses, if a response at all, and the criteria to meet and receive assistance was and still is very disheartening. I have witnessed many residents in my neighborhood get evicted due to hardships and lack of resources available. I can attest to the rising rental rates that affects residents community-wide. Even working much as I can when I could doesn't change the fact that housing costs are on the rise and wages are still the same. This serves as a serious issue that needs immediate attention as the challenge to sustain a living becomes more prevalent across many communities. I come before each of you as a working class citizen to raise awareness of what is becoming a phenomenon. I fell on a very hard and unforeseen time as a single mom providing for my family. All of the advertisement for assistance seems to be just that when reaching out to find it. Further responses or the lack thereof on reaching out to organizations are ones that are sure to send any one person deeper into a panicked or overwhelmed state. Luckily, God always puts the ram in the bush. We Thrive in the Riverside Renters Association has been the gateway for help and recommendation of other resources as well. I bring before you a woman by the name of Miss Monica Delancey, who just so happens to be the founder of We Thrive in Renters Riverside Association. I must say she's truly an angel and God sent for me. She has by far been the answer to my prayers. Ms. Delancey has been the calm in my storm and has single-handedly offered her assistance from her organization and advised of other resources as well. We need more funding for organizations like We Thrive in Riverside Renters Association. Not only is this association there for the residents of Cobb County, but they offer a hands-on approach in the community. So hands-on that there was a Christmas card left in my door, and I reached out via email the same night I received it. The very next morning, bright and early, Ms. Delancey gave me a call and offered resources with a brief phone interview. Residents in Cobb County need organizations like We Thrive in Riverside Renters Association, as they provide a tangible touch to the community on various levels. I hope that my voice of concern has been heard today, as I am sure I speak on behalf of many residents from numerous communities. My hope is that there will be better solutions and more resources allocated for organizations to assist people like myself that fall on hard times that are unforeseen and life-changing. Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay. Our next speaker is Avery Moss. Avery Moss, please go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hello, this is Avery Moss. There are 10 elements that make up the family lifestyle and value system, and they are not having recreational sex, not doing recreational drugs, not being senselessly violent, not stealing, not vandalizing, not supporting anarchy, not betraying your homeland, not betraying your people, not being lazy and ignorant about the progress of your people, and not denying the existence of a family of gods for your people. Obviously, the family lifestyle and value system is in danger of extinction in every world of the earth, and the Cobb County government is dedicated to the simultaneous extermination and brainwashing of the family-oriented people by imposing a low quality of life on all residents and supporting those who suppress the voice of the family-oriented people in society. To make this possible extinction and the attempted brainwashing bearable, I request that you have the smallest amount of kindness and provide two things. One, the appointment of one person who supports and practices all 10 elements of the family system and is competent to respond to the concerns of the pro-family people with pertinent information. Periodically present their concerns before the board and organize private research efforts into the benefits of the family system. Two, the creation of at least one business tax-funded media channel, station, or publication that provides unadulterated family-oriented content about the benefits, history, and status of the family system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. We'll now hear from our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Pamela Reardon. Ms. Reardon, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's get into it. Okay, hi. So I've just been listening to people with problems, and a lot of these problems are rooted because, and actually a result of making the poor choices and electing the wrong people in this country. I just wanted to say that because I've been sitting here listening to all this. But let's go. This emergency, current emergency, is only a power grab to control the people. The chair is jeopardizing the school's swim team practices and competitions by restrictions. I raised 2 national swimmers So understand the necessary devotion times and practicing and meet. Omicron is the majority of the new tests, and they are not cases. Counting every test a case again and always has been is and always has been wrong. Never before has a positive test been a case until March of 2020. The science says that it is a test, and these tests are 50% false positive. So they're not cases. Stop ruining kids' lives. People are being admitted for reasons other than COVID and happen to test for COVID. I know a case, in fact, recently at Wellstar where a lady had a baby, went back for follow-up, and the doctor asked how her COVID was. She did not have COVID because her test, when she was in there, she was told verbally it was negative. So why did they put it down as positive? So apparently they put down positive tests for everyone. We can't look at the hospital because they lie and get money from the bloated federal government as incentives to call everything COVID. Remember the days when we just got a flu or a cold? We didn't run to be tested. And masks don't work and never have worked, and it's been proven that way. Even Fauci said that 5 years ago and 4 years ago. This is not a pandemic anymore, folks. This virus has mutated to the next phase, and it's called endemic. Look it up, research it. This is a proven sound science. If you don't believe me, even CNN doctors agree, and the left is waking up, but late to save the children's education and sports. You have ruined seniors' experiences 2 years in a row. Let's stop now for this year. Even a Supreme Court judge tried to spew this garbage last Friday and was fact-checked by the liberal WAPU for Pinocchios. Children are not dying and not being hospitalized from COVID. In fact, 70% of people hospitalized for supposed COVID have major other medical problems, and that's the thing. COVID, this Omicron, is not as deadly as at the beginning. Next, MSPLOST, or mobility tax. You were trying to trick the voters of Cobb County with a fancy name by not calling it a transportation tax, which was rejected twice already in Gwinnett County. If passed, it would take subsidies for Cobb community transit out of the general fund, but that savings of $750 to $800 million over 30 years would not go to the property tax relief or other things, but be repurposed to other vital needs, because according to three majority of the other party on our board, the revenues we are receiving, we are not getting enough. On this issue, I take exception because now the county is receiving more revenue than ever before in history from increased property value and expanded taxpayer base due to residential and commercial growth. We would have even more if you'd stop giving unfounded tax credits to developers and businesses. You can't even figure out what to do with the rest of the CARES Act windfall. Let me explain something. This manna is not from heaven, but from the Fed, and it increases our national debt, which causes and increases inflation, which causes higher prices for everything, for everybody. In this time, this county finds a way to, it is about time this county finds a way to live with their ever-growing revenues and stop trying to spend more of taxpayers' money and ask for even more. So no budget increases and no millage rate increase and no transportation taxes.
Ms. Reardon, I'm sorry. Ms. Reardon, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, I'm just going to finish this one.
Thank you. Please turn off the mic. That's end of her time. Thank you. Thank you for those that have participated in today's public comment. I believe that was 6 speakers. Thank you. We will now move on to our consent agenda. Commissioners, I move that we add non-agenda items 39, 40, 41, and 42 to the end of our consent agenda. Item 39 pertains to a non-agenda ad for a member to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Item 40 pertains to a workers' compensation settlement on behalf of Omar Patterson. Item 41 pertains to a resolution of dispute with St. Partners and Clipper Petroleum regarding the remediation of a stormwater line in the vicinity of 2779 Windy Hill Road. Item 42 pertains to the determination of Strack Incorporated as the only local source for construction services pertaining to remediation of the stormwater line at 2779 Windy Hill Road. And yes, that concludes our non-agenda items to add to consent. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any discussion regarding adding those items to consent?
Chairwoman, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Number 39 is the item to add for an announcement, so that doesn't need to go to the consent. That can be added to our appointment
Thank you.
tab.
I
I'm sorry.
appreciate that. For clarification with that motion, Commissioners, I hope you heard Pam, that 39 goes to the end of the agenda, not on consent.
And item 40 was added to the consent, is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Yes. So why don't I modify that motion, Pam, just so it's clear? And we will vote on item 39 separately. Commissioners, I make a motion that we add items 40, 41, and 42 as presented to the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding those three particular items being added to consent? Yes. Commissioner Gambrill.
Yes, I'd like to note my opposition to agenda item number 41 and 42.
Thank you. I will state that when we actually vote on consent. Right now, we are voting to just add them to consent, and then we'll have a separate vote for consent. Okay. May commissioners raise their hand if you approve adding these items to consent? Thank you. We have 4 who are in support. And if, Commissioner Gamble, if you can raise your hand if you're in opposition to adding these items to consent. Thank you. Let the record reflect that Commissioners Richardson, Burrell, Sheffield, and myself are in support of approving adding these 3 items to consent. And may it also reflect that Commissioner Gambrill is in opposition to adding them to consent. Now we will move towards approving our consent agenda. For those of you who are here virtually, we have these items that scroll before the top of our meeting and at the end of our meeting, so you can see the particular items that we are voting on in bank during the consent agenda. With that, Commissioners, if you are in support, matter of fact, let me go ahead and make a motion. I now move that we approve the consent agenda as revised, reflecting that we have revised items 7 and 37 per comments made yesterday during the Board of Commissioners meeting. That was a motion. Is there a second to approve the consent agenda as revised?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Yes. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I had some reservations about 41 and 42, but after speaking with County Attorney Blair yesterday afternoon and again this morning, I support that.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Also, just a note for Pam, again, that Commissioner Gamble is in opposition to items 41 and 42. With that, we'll go ahead.
And then I'd also,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Gambrill.
and then I'd also like to add, I'm opposed to item number 22.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other comments or remarks regarding the consent agenda? With that, we have a motion and a second. For those in support of approving the consent agenda as revised, please raise your hand. That motion carries 5-0, recognizing again Commissioner Gamble's opposition to items 22, 41, and 42. Thank you, Commissioners. Just bear with me as I go to our next tab of the agenda. All right, we are now moving on to our transportation tab. Drew, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. DOT has 4 items for consideration this morning. The first item, before I state the recommendation, I did want to offer a clarification that came out of agenda work session. This item relates to a contract with Heath and Lineback. In the agenda item, you'll notice that the budget and the contract number aren't exactly the same. So the contract number is for $300,000 with Heath and Lineback. The budget is for $301,000. That delta is for miscellaneous services from things like attorney's fees or advertisements, printing, things like that, is the difference between the budget number and the contract number. So with that, the department recommends the Board of Commissioners approve a consultant services agreement with Heath and Lineback Engineers Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for transportation planning and engineering services for Austell Powder Springs Trail Scoping Study, project number X2543, authorize the corresponding budget transaction, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you, Drew. Commissioner Sheffield?
So moved. Drew, I appreciate the additional explanation on the $1,000. Thank you. So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll second it. Is there any further discussion? Call the question. Excuse me, I'm presuming you're here. If those of you who are in support of this motion, go ahead and raise your hand. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The department's next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve supplemental agreement number 4 to the consultant services agreement with HNTB Corporation in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for engineering services on Windy Hill Road, Terrell Mill Road Connector, project number X2401, authorize a corresponding budget transaction, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you, Drew. Commissioner Richardson?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second it. Is there any further discussion? Those of you who approve this agenda item, please raise your hand. Thank you. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a consultant services agreement with Kimley Horner Associates Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $1,050,000 for engineering design of Cumberland Multimodal Segment C, Cobb County project number TR519, authorize a corresponding budget transaction, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you, Drew. Again, Commissioner Richardson?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, for those of you who are in approval of this motion, please raise your hand. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. And the department's final item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency drainage repairs on Old Sewell Road in response to a sinkhole and voids. Approve project number D2873 to the 2021 countywide unit price contract with D&H Construction Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $203,064 for said repairs. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Thanks, Drew. Commissioner Richardson?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second it. Any further discussion? All right, those of you who are in approval of the motion, please raise your hand. All right, the motion carries 5-0. And I believe that concludes our DOT agenda.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Drew. We will now move on to our next tab for DPS.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, County Manager. I ask that we ratify my previous action as the Cobb Emergency Management Agency Director under the current declaration of emergency, authorizing the purchase of at-home COVID-19 screening kits in an amount totaling $816,480. authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move that we support that agenda item as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Please raise your hand if there's any discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Gambrill.
Again, I continue to voice my opposition to the funding. And while I understand it's coming from undesignated contingency, just last night, Cobb County government at 6:03 p.m. sent out an email stating that this is going to be using the remaining CARES funding. All the CARES funding needed to be expended by December 31st of 2021. Using CARES funding specifically for this use, if we're going to say it's using CARES funding, violates the agreement that we had when we accepted it at $137 million. I also don't appreciate, again, that vote was taken originally on December 14th, 2021, to transfer the money to the remaining CARES funds to public safety to cover salaries, and now here we are going and transferring it again. It's a shell game, and it should not happen. If we really didn't need to use that funding to reimburse salaries, then why aren't we using that money to fix things within the county that really needs to be fixed, and taking money that we really don't need?
Thank you, Commissioner. We have Commissioner Richardson, yes.
I was actually going to direct my questions towards Bill, potentially to address the questions proposed here around whether or not this is an appropriate usage, and how we came to determine appropriate usage of those funds.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, so to add to that, at the end of December, we closed out our CARES grant, and we sent the remaining funds to reimburse public safety salaries as eligible under the CARES Act. And in doing so, we freed up general fund dollars that would have been otherwise used to fund public safety salaries. So we moved those dollars to a contingency account and to address ongoing pandemic expenses that were going to happen beyond the December 31st cutoff. Now, those are not restricted for pandemic-related expenses, but that was the initial intent, which is why we're using those monies that we set aside for this purpose, the at-home test kits. So this does meet the requirement for CARES when we closed out at the end of December. But as I said, we put the additional dollars into a contingency account, which are no longer obligated to meet CARES requirements because we met that requirement under public safety salaries. But we felt that this was an appropriate use as a one-time purchase using these one-time monies to purchase the at-home test kits.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Richardson?
For that, and so I think you slightly addressed, or you started to, but my follow-up question would be with what are the different permissible uses for these funds outside of the kits? And then the follow-up to that is to Cassie on the urgency of this purchase from your expertise.
So let me address the uses. At this point in time, because we met the CARES requirement, there is no legally restricted use that we would have to follow. The only restriction that we have is to use contingency account has to come back before the Board of Commissioners for approval. So that is the only restriction that these funds are legally restricted to. However, that was the intent of those funds, but obviously the board has the ability to set policy and redirect those as needed. We would caution that they should be used as a one-time purchase and not an ongoing expense, however.
And yes, to the other question, this was in response to the surge that we are currently experiencing and the long test lines that we have been witnessing here in the county.
Thank you. I think I saw another hand up. Commissioner Burrow?
Yes, and I think yesterday it was clarified that this is money that was set aside from the original CARES Act money in contingency for PPE and equipment for EMA. And that's what it's being used for, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any additional comments or questions? Okay, we've had a motion and a second. For those in support of approving this item, please raise your hand. All right, and those in opposition, please raise your hand. Thank you. Let the record reflect that Commissioners Richardson, Burrell, Sheffield, and myself are in support of the motion, and that Commissioner Gambrill is in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to our next tab. I believe it's under Human Resources. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
County Manager. This item is to ask the board to ratify the decision.
Hey, Glenda, excuse me, we can't really hear you. I'm not sure if your mic is on or if you can just step closer to it.
Okay, is this better?
It's better, but it's still pretty low. But if that's the best you can get it, we'll just go with it.
Of course, it was fine before we started.
There you are.
All right, so this item is to ask the board to ratify the decision of the county manager to extend the time period for the emergency pay policy through February 28th. Can't hear me still?
I'm sorry, Glenda. We are trying, but you're fading in and out. I'm going to ask our county manager can help us in reading this particular item. I'm sorry. There are technical difficulties.
Chairwoman, Commissioners, thank you, Glenda. We appreciate you trying to take on this item. Basically, what we're asking is for the board to ratify a decision made by the county manager to extend the time period for the emergency paid administrative leave, which was set to expire at the end of December 2021. But given the COVID numbers at the county, we wanted to at least extend the policy. Everything else that was included in the policy as approved earlier in the year remained the same. The only thing we were doing is allowing our employees to continue to use EPAL through the end of February of this year. So with that, the recommendation would be to ask the Board of Commissioners to accept the ratification made by the county manager to extend the time period for the emergency paid administrative leave through February 28, 2022.
Thank you, Jackie. With that, I'll make a motion that we approve this item as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, for those of you who are in support of this motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. And if you're in opposition, please raise your hand. Thank you. Let the record reflect that Commissioners Richardson, Burrell, Sheffield, and myself are in support of this motion, and that Commissioner Gambrill is in opposition. Thank you. All right, I believe that takes us to our
Yes, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Finance has one item today, and it is to ask the board to adopt a policy statement for Cobb County, Georgia fund balance to provide direction to the Cobb County Chief Financial Officer and authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents. I did want to make sure that everybody received the additional language that we added based on the direction we received yesterday. The policy will be reviewed by the Board of Commissioners on an annual basis, and any recommended amendments will be considered during that review process.
Thank you, Bill. I'll make a motion that we approve this agenda item as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Gambrill.
Bill, I know I sent you and Jackie an email last night based on language that is contained in our CAFRs and has been there for years. And I did not see that policy. So my only question is, what we are considering today, how does that impact or strengthen or potentially change the language that is currently been included in our paper.
So this policy that was before you today definitely strengthens this. So the policy and the formalized, the informal policy that we followed incorporates the county code, which is the required set aside. So we're asking the board to increase the general fund component up to 25% versus, I believe it's 1/10 of, or is it 1/9? I'm sorry, I have to go back and look, but it's significantly less. So this is definitely a strengthening policy, and is part of what I want to send to you, and I can definitely share with the board, is the county, especially the finance, has had most of their policies have been informal policies, either that we've maintained over the life. And I think, as you asked in your email, I mean, you went back to 2012, and I think the information's still there. So a part of our practice that we're doing, and this is the first step of that, is to bring our policies before the board to formalize those. And that was based on conversations with our rating agencies and financial advisors. So we are looking to do a full policy review. This is the first of many that we would like to bring forward for the board's consideration. So this is the first step, but I will share you the informal policies that we have and the current practices that we have in place in writing. They're also found in our budget book that we produce each and every year. But this is definitely a step in the right direction in strengthening of our policies.
Thank you.
And one follow-up question, what are you anticipating our fund balance to be for the close of last year?
So I know our policy that we're proposing today is 25%. When we had our last ratings discussion, we were just north of 30, with the goal of working towards 35 is where we'd like to be in comparison to other AAA counties. I believe we will be north of 35. We obviously have to conclude our audit and make sure that there's no significant audit adjustments as they go through that process. So I can tell you that we are definitely north of 35 at this point. And we did look at adding the language to the policy and going north of the 25 at the direction and the feedback that we received both from our financial advisors. They recommended that we have the policy at 25% to give us a little flexibility and to make sure that, because basically at the point that I want to make sure the board is aware of is that if we're at 25 in policy and we fall below that, we now have to provide a letter and basically recommended actions to restore that. So reviewing policies throughout the nation, 25 is pretty much the median that we found for AAA counties of our size. So we went ahead and took our financial advisor's advice and suggested that would be the policy that we would bring forward for your consideration.
Thank you, Bill.
And
yes, Commissioner Gambrill.
And to follow up on your comment, Bill, would you be opposed to there being a clerk note stating that, the county was looking at getting to 35% or something to that effect? Would you be opposed to having a clerk's note added to this agenda item to that respect?
All I can say to that is that was a goal that was discussed, and that was something that was proffered by the finance department, but obviously the board sets policy on that. So that is really up to the board.
Yes, and I would just advise, because this board has not discussed that or made that a policy suggestion as a board, that certainly we can reflect Commissioner Gambrill to ask that in the clerk's note, but to say that the board has suggested that or made any inference to that wouldn't be appropriate at this time. Commissioner Gambrill, would you like for the note to reflect that that's what you've asked?
Yes, Chair, because I understand that I cannot direct the board to take 35%, but I would like it noted as a clerk's note that the goal that was set under the previous administration, which also led to the tax increase in 2018, was to help the county start achieving this 35% goal. And while I understand it might not be the current board's direction, I think it still needs to be reflected that 35% was the previous target, so that our constituents understand why we've been gaining such a fund balance reserve.
Thank you. And again, I don't mind stating that Commissioner Gambrill has observed that there were discussions, but again, I do not recall the past board voting on that. So to infer that the prior board made that as a policy determination, I don't think is appropriate for the clerk's note. But I do think it's appropriate to, again, add that Commissioner Gamble has made that observation, and that that would be her suggestion. Is there any further? I'm sorry.
Sure, and then
yes,
to
go
only
ahead.
add to that is because, as Bill stated, there were only informal policies in the past. This is the first time that we're putting a policy actually in writing. So you could also add that to the clerk's note due to the informal policies of the past.
And Pam, I hope you can find a way to interpret that. Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. Are there any additional comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. For those of you in approval of this agenda item as presented, please raise your hand. Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioners. We are now moving on to, I believe it's our second public comment. And Bill, if you can let us know how many speakers we have.
We originally had 2 signed up. I think I asked if there might be down to 1 at this point.
Yes, we had Alana Reeves signed up to be the next speaker. However, she was concerned she was going to have to drop off, and she has. So our next speaker is Dave McFarland, and I will unmute him.
Okay.
Mr. McFarland, go ahead.
My name is Dave McFarland. I'm asking the Board of Commissioners to not give away zoning rights. We also want a ruling on whether the board has the legal right to give those rights away. We also requested a dollar estimate of the cost and property value drop due to affirmatively furthering fair housing demands that are attached to HUD funding. Chairwoman Cupid, we totally agree that Cobb County must help those in need. My wife and I donate 10% of our income to charity. We work 10 hours each month at a food bank, and we've worked with for years with those less fortunate. We must provide local help. However, we vehemently disagree about the dangers of accepting HUD funds, especially those that seize local zoning authority. Why fear this? Let me give 6 reasons. Detroit, Baltimore, East LA, Philadelphia, DC, and Murder City, USA, Chicago. These once proud cities are now third world hellholes. They've been ransacked for decades by socialist policies and politicians. How many billions in HUD money have been poured into these cities to wage war on poverty, bring equality, and create a great new society? Did it work? Did it work? I'd argue that those billions inflamed corruption and created a victim class of socialist slaves. But that can't happen here, right? Well, Buckhead, seeing our Atlanta, infected by those same socialist policies, wants out. And even here in Cobb, the people proposing the cities of East Cobb, Lost Mountain, Mableton, and Vinings see AFFH as huge, dangerous zoning authority power grab. They're scrambling to escape Cobb County before any local zoning is seized under the Unified Development Code. And if the UDC closes Dobbins, Lockheed must escape to Texas, and Cobb becomes another Detroit. Do you see a pattern here? This AFFH seizure of local zoning power raises hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe $billion, high-stakes question that must be answered. Can the BOC actually give away zoning power to any outside agency, even if it's HUD, the Atlanta Regional Commission, or GDCA? The 2016 Georgia Planning Act states that zoning must stay local. That may mean that HUD contracts with any AFFH zoning mandates are illegal, null, and void. It may also mean that the BOC is abusing its allocated power if it signs an AFFH meddling contract. It may also mean that any outside influence on the UDC is government overreach. Now, you might think that our only concern is about money, not people, but our real concern is something much more precious. Do you know what it is? Can you guess? It's freedom. It's liberty. And it's not just liberty to protect our quality of life or live where we want to live. It's the freedom to help those that in need, as we know they need to be helped, not in ineffective ways dictated by a faceless, uncaring, unaccountable DC bureaucrat. Who can answer the zoning power sell-off question? Our county attorney. As such, we're asking you to direct Mr. Rellings to perform 2 tasks. 1, rule on the legality of any BOC zoning sell-off authority. Then 2, publish estimated dollar and freedom costs of AFFH connected funds in terms of compliance and litigation. We each have a copy of an open records request that we submitted per Georgia FOIA law. The OIR outlined steps needed to prepare this report. Mr. Rowling just needs to fill in the blanks. Chairwoman Cupid, you said that the onus was on us to prove our claims, but here's your chance to prove us wrong. Please direct the county attorney to publish an unbiased, fact-based report per this ORR before any HUD zoning grabs are slipped into the UDC. AFH scares us to death. Why? Because it centralizes power. We see 30 years of no strings attached HUD money as bribery, but now with AFH dictates, it becomes extortion. You like this money? Well, now you better give up your zoning rights or we'll cut you off. Cobb County has a dark history of Trail of Tears, plantation, and Civil War slavery. To assume that Democrat history can repeat itself. Chairwoman Cupid, I know you want to be a freedom fighter. I know you do, not a tool of the Marxist. Please, don't let HUD power grab turn our beautiful, beautiful Cobb into Detroit.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our public comment for today. We will now move on to our appointments. Our first item is brought by Commissioner Gambrill.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the reappointment of Peggy Holbrook to the Public Library Board of Trustees for a 3-year term to expire on December 31st, 2024.
All right, I'll second that. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right, those in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. The motion passes 5-0. Our next item is with Commissioner Richardson.
To announce the appointment of Kim Swanson to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Kim has dedicated a lot of her time to the county, and just happy to welcome her right back into the fold.
Great move. Great.
And look forward to her. Did we already vote to add this to the regular?
Yes, we did vote to add this to regular. However, this motion, and this is not in a form of a motion. This agenda item just needs an announcement.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you.
That's all right. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. We are now moving on to the finale of our meeting, which is the Commissioner's Public Address. We'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Gambrill.
Thank you. And do we have the slides?
I believe they're pulling them up as we speak.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Cobb County Community Development Agency will host a series of community meetings and surveys to facilitate a 5-year update to the Cobb County's 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The Comprehensive Plan is a long-range community design growth strategy that guides the future of Cobb County. Community meeting number 4 will be held in District 1 on February 17th, 2022 from 6 to 8 p.m. at the West Cobb Senior Center located on Dallas Highway. For more information, you can visit the Comprehensive Plan website at www.cobbcounty.org/comp-plan. If you have any questions regarding the 2040 Comprehensive Plan 5-year update, you can also call 770-528-2018 or email comdevplanning@cobbcounty.org. Next slide, please. We are excited to announce we have a new interactive map of all the nonprofit organizations in the area. With this map, you would easily be able to find organizations that could assist you or you could assist with donations or volunteering. There is a short instructional video on Cobb TV to help you get started using the new map, or go to Cobb County Government on YouTube. Next. Our Cobb Parks and the Jeannie T. Anderson Theater won 16 awards at the Broadway World Awards. They took home a win in every category they had a nomination in, and it was a solid sweep for Cobb, beating out major theater companies in Fulton and Gwinnett. They also received the top awards for the state of Georgia Best Musical and Best Production of the Year. Congratulations to all the performers and Jeannie T. Anderson Theater staff, Jono Davis, Ethan Everett, and Susanna Cook. And lastly, as we age, we need to stay on top of technology with transportation ordered directly from your smartphone and paid for automatically. Uber makes getting around your community as easy as tapping a button. You can learn more at North Cobb Senior Center on Wednesday, January 12th from 10 to 11 a.m. Registration is required, and to register, you can call 770-975-7740. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Gambrill. We'll now turn things over to Commissioner Richardson as we pull up your slides.
Thank you.
All right, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Sorry, I can't see my slides yet. There we go.
Okay.
Happy New Year, everyone. We're in for quite a year. It's already started off very interestingly, and certainly looking forward to what this year brings for us, and in different unique ways for us to come together. With that, though, we also have Martin Luther King Day coming up soon, and there will be events all throughout the week, so certainly find some time to enjoy and reflect, and just keep in mind the time is always right to do what is right. Next. So from the office, just wanted, go to the next slide, wanted to give a visual. Kim Swanson, if you haven't had a chance to meet her, she comes with an exceptional background, serviced our former commissioner, Commissioner Ott, and has really just done a lot to contribute to the community, including serving in the BZA previously. So we're happy to welcome her back, and really excited about her abilities to be able to bring different people together and consider the larger community in decisions. Next. Next slide. Next slide. Last Monday's storm caused many trees around the county to fall. However, our DOT and Parks team were out immediately after cleaning everything up. DOT took care of 22 downed trees on the roads, and Parks cleaned up 45 trees along the Silver Comet Trail. So thank you, Team Cobb, always being available. Next. Stop by Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Center any day in January and decorate a snowman to hang in the children's department. All ages are included. And lastly, learn how to sample the biological aspects of a stream with the Adopt a Stream macroinvertebrate monitoring workshop on Saturday, January 15th, 10:30 to 3 p.m. This workshop will focus on collection techniques for macroinvertebrate identification. A quality assurance test is available at the end of the workshop for those who wish to test their skills. Sign up for the class at cobbcounty.org or at the QR code on the screen. Thanks. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll now turn things over to Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you. I would also like to wish everyone a happy new year. This will be another year of a lot going on in the county, and we ask that you participate, get involved with us on this journey, take an active interest in Cobb and District 3, and help us to make Cobb the best place to live, work, and play. Next slide. See the slides. Okay, the next slide is Get Walking Kickoff Party. The beginning of a new year is always a good time to set new goals. If you're a senior citizen and one of your goals is to get fit by walking, we hope you'll join the Get Walking Kickoff Party scheduled for tomorrow, January 12th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Tim D. Lee Senior Center. The event is free, but registration is required, and you can call 770-509-4900 to register. The center is located at 3332 Sandy Plains Road in Marietta. Also, mark your calendar. This year, Community Development will be working on updating county codes, and your input is appreciated. A full presentation of the amendment package will be presented during the Board of Commissioners work session on Tuesday, January 25th at 1:30, and there will be 2 public hearings that you'll have an opportunity to provide your input. The first will be at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 25th during the BOC meeting, and the second will be during the 9 a.m. BOC meeting on Tuesday, February 8th. Next slide. The Betty White Challenge is underway all over the country. Next Monday, January 17th, would have been her 100th birthday, and she passed on New Year's Eve. She was an ardent animal lover, and Cobb Animal Services is holding a fundraiser on her birthday in her honor. It's called the Betty White Challenge. You can participate by donating $5 in her name, and you can also sign up to volunteer at the animal shelter. For more information, you can go to cobbcounty.org/public-safety/animal-services/volunteer. Our next slide is another adoption for Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets program. We're up to 207 adoptions for veterans. And this is Jack. Mr. Loy adopted Jack, the short-haired black cat, this past week, and he's very talkative, the cat. We're grateful to Mr. Loy for his more than 5 years of service in the U.S. Navy and for giving Jack a new home. For more information on the program, you can go again to the Cobb County Animal Shelter website and Facebook, Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets. Next Monday, we're also celebrating Martin Luther King Day. It is virtual this year, but we hope you will log on and join us for this celebration beginning at 10 a.m. next Monday, the 17th, in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. And the county office will be closed for the holiday. This contact information for my newsletter. Please sign up, and all the events going on in the county and District 3 are so noted in all of our public meetings. We ask you to get involved. Happy birthday, Commissioner Sheffield. Sorry we can't be there in person to watch you blow out your candles, but I hope you have a big celebration planned, and just wanted to publicly wish you a happy day. And of course, last but not least, finally, Georgia has a national championship again after 40 years. So, wow. Exciting game last night. I know all the Bulldog Nation are happy but tired for staying up, and just want to congratulate the Bulldogs on a fantastic win. And I think I don't have the slide because I sent it too late, but I would also like to offer condolences to the family of Senator Johnny Isaacson. I attended the funeral last Thursday. It was a beautiful tribute to a great statesman and public servant. He is the only Georgian to have served in both the State House and Senate and the U.S. House and Senate. So condolences to his wife Diane and his sons and daughter. God bless you all. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, we'll turn things over to Commissioner Sheffield.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. Okay, next slide. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
You guys can hear me? Okay. All right, let's get started. Does your New Year resolution include learning a new skill? If so, you are in luck. Cobb WorkSource is accepting application for its Power Up apprenticeship program with the focus on robotics and automation. This program is no cost for Cobb County residents. No experience is needed. Participants will earn a weekly stipend while in the program. Transportation, child care, and other assistance is also available to the applicants. To apply, contact 770-528-4868 or email G as in George Joseph at cobbworks.org. Next slide. Tutor ATL is a service of Public Broadcasting of Atlanta and is currently offering free online homework and test prep sessions for Cobb County and Marietta Public School students. Students can access Tutor ATL at any Cobb Library branch and from home with a Cobb Library card number. For more information, visit tutoratl.org. You may also visit the library student resource page at www.cobbcat.org/students. Next slide. Save the date. Join me on January 27th at 7 p.m. for a virtual community forum. I will discuss my first year in office, challenges and triumphs, and what's in store for 2022. The meeting is hosted by Austell Community Task Force, the Mableton Improvement Coalition, and the Powder Springs Task Force. Please register in advance at mableton.org/calendar. Next slide. The Haven of Help is hosting a Black History Month Spelling Bee contest on February 19th at 3 p.m. Children ages 12 to 15 are encouraged to enter. Cash prizes and trophies will be awarded to the first, second, and third place winners. To enter, contact 404-454-9347, or you can email thehavenofhelp@gmail.com. Registration deadline is on January 15th, and I will have the privilege to serve as one of the judges. The Haven of Help is a nonprofit organization located in Austell, which aids families and individuals in 5 key areas, including food, clothing, employment, transportation, and housing. Next slide. County offices will be closed on Monday, January 17th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. On this day, we celebrate the legacy of an American hero that has changed the fabric of our country. I encourage you to volunteer in your community next weekend, join a group to pick up litter, volunteer at a local bank, or any other activity where social distancing can be practiced. If you don't feel comfortable volunteering, that's okay. You can make a commitment on King Day to volunteer for future events. Everybody can be great because anyone can serve, and that's an MLK quote. Next slide. Okay. Can you go back one? It might be too late, but okay, thanks. Okay, right there. District 4 had a strong start and finish in 2021. As we move forward, we will continue to rebrand and re-image our district. Doing so will not only change the perception of the district to developers, community stakeholders, and those that live outside of the district, but it will also help to change the mindset of those that live in the district. To aid in our mission of rebranding and reimaging, a logo was created that has been exclusively designed for District 4, and we are excited to share that with you today. So I present to you the District 4 new logo. And as a quick note, the logo will not place the county's insignia. Instead, it will be used for commissioner-sponsored District 4 events and our newsletters and District 4 marketing materials. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and that concludes my comments.
It looks wonderful, Commissioner, and again, a very happy birthday to you. In fact, so much so, yes, we want to take a moment to honor you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Happy birthday, Stevie Wonder. Thank you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm officially at that age where I legitimately.
Ooh, we had a technical issue just now. Uh-oh. That's okay. Commissioner, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
You're welcome, and that was courtesy of your fantastic assistant, Deidre Watts. Thank you for that.
Deidre, thanks, Deidre.
Yes. And in conclusion, we'll go to my remarks. No problem. And I could go ahead and get started while we're working on that. First, Happy New Year to everyone. We are so fortunate to make it to 2022, considering all that has taken place in the year prior. Even though we're bringing some of the same issues, we don't have to approach them the same way. I just ask for you to keep an open mind and heart to the possibilities of what lies before us in 2022, and know that Cobb County is stronger together as we move forward. So as you consider how you move forward, consider, as Commissioner Burrow, I think, put very well in her announcements, consider how you can serve and serve with us, as it takes all of us to make Cobb County the best that it could be. Also, again, happy birthday, Commissioner Sheffield.
Thank you.
I'll speak through my other slides. We know that we are still in the midst of a declaration of emergency, which lasts until January 22nd. With that comes some limited use of our facilities, as they are still open. However, we've limited the large number of gatherings that we have, particularly at many of our public facilities. Also, we've received some comments regarding our aquatic center, and we certainly do feel for the parents who've been impacted, as we know that there have been a variety of impacts to many of our events that occur. But we're hoping to get through this and reduce that very high number of over 2,600 cases per 100,000 that was shared by Dr. Memark in her presentation. And we can share numbers with you, but I think the most compelling are the experiences that you are seeing and feeling in real time, and that people are experiencing when they go to the hospital. There are still logistical issues with this pandemic. Many of us, when we walk into the grocery store, we are seeing bare shelves. When we walk into our stores, we are seeing less employees. And for me, I've been surprised at just the limited amount of customer service. And that's because logistics is being impacted by way of shipment and delivery of goods, but also the availability of human resources is being impacted. Those numbers are reflected with the number of people who you do not see at the same location that you're used to seeing, whether it be at work or whether it be at a venue near you. So know that this is impacting us in real ways. And while, yes, the impact of the coronavirus is not as severe as we experienced with Delta, I know personally of people who are still reeling from significant impacts or who are having long COVID due to the Omicron variant. And so these are not conditions that we want anyone to experience personally. And we've also got to think about our healthcare infrastructure. There are people who are foregoing and not getting treatment in areas outside of COVID because that has been the dominant emergency of our hospitals. And so the way that we get through this is to recognize, yes, we are in the middle of still a pandemic, but also we can do something about it. Our vaccination numbers are up as a county to, I believe, about 56%. We can get higher than that, Cobb County. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, please do. We know that that certainly has helped to reduce the impact of COVID in our community. If you haven't gotten boosted, please do so. And if you need tests, I am very grateful for the collaboration with Cobb Douglas Public Health, our county, and also with various service providers in the community in being willing to step up and provide events for distribution of COVID rapid tests. And so I encourage you, once we kick that off, which will be next Monday, Martin Luther King Day, please come out and get tested, or pick up a test so you can get tested and know where you stand. Again, that kicks off next week, Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, and we will have our distribution event at Jim Miller Park from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. because we're hoping at 10 a.m. you will check in with us virtually as we have moved our MOK services online. And so we typically do this in partnership with the Cobb NAACP and hope that you can check them out, and you can do so by going to any of our social media for the county as well as TV23. With that, again, oh yes, there's another announcement. I did want to recognize Parks and also the Jenny T. Anderson Theater for your significant recognition. Thank you for making us shine on the stage and for bringing joy to so many people who come and observe your performances. They are an example of so many good works that our employees do here today to build up the quality of life here in Cobb. And I want to thank you for just the stellar job that you continue to do. With that, we all have a stellar job that awaits before us at the conclusion of this meeting. We hope that everybody has a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. For commissioners, please note that we do have our work session coming up today at 1:30, which we will continue our budget hearings. And I hope that you will join us, the public, if you want to see more about what budget requests our agencies will bring before us. Thanks, and with that, everybody, let me not forget, I want to thank communications. I want to thank our IS team for doing a stellar job of coordinating everything today as we have moved our meetings virtually, coordinated commissioners, the public being online, being on the phone, so that they can weigh in on today's meeting. With that, again, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and again, a Happy New Year. Thanks.
Were you muted? We're muted.
1:30. Yes. 1:30 work session.